Hi friends, welcome back to Come in the Chaos Homeschool. So today I'm going to be starting my Plan With Me series. Today I'm going to be looking at our homeschool schedule for the upcoming school year. Now, if you haven't been following me and you're interested in curriculum picks for 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th grade, you'll want to go back and watch some videos that I did in the last month. If you're interested in record keeping for high school, I did a 2-part series like a week ago on that, so you want to go back and check on those. But today I'm going to be looking at my schedule from last year, and I'm going to be making the adjustments that I know are going to happen in the upcoming school year. Now, some of this is going to be a little bit of guessing because I'm not going to know exactly everything that is happening in the upcoming school year. But in general, I like to kind of go with the same flow, and I do know some changes that are going to be happening, so I can make some good predictions on how that will impact my schedule. Now, to me, coming up with a preliminary schedule is really important because I have a really hard time planning out my other subjects before I kind of know where everything is going to fit in my current schedule. And so even if this is a rough draft, I'm okay with doing it because it just helps me to move on to the next step. Some of the next videos that I'm going to be making, maybe not in this order, I'm not sure exactly what order I'll be making them in yet, but I will be making a Plan With Me, our family subjects loop, Plan With Me for my 7th and 8th graders curriculum, and I will talk about what I'll be doing with my 2 boys together and what that will look like. Actually, you'll see some of that in this schedule, but I will be going more in depth in that, as well as how I'm planning their independent subjects and the loops that they'll be doing within that. And then I'll also have a Plan With Me video for my 9th and 10th grader. I will show you how I assign work to my high schoolers, and I'm going to be coming up with a checklist that is new for my upcoming 9th grader based on some feedback that I have for myself from the last school year. So if you're interested in these Plan With Me videos where I'm looking towards the next school year and planning things out, don't forget to give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and follow along. If you're new here, my name is Davine, and like I said, I am going to be homeschooling 4 kids this school year. I have a 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th grader. There is a little caveat. My 10th grader is going to be part of a hybrid school. She actually did that last year, and that does impact our schedule quite a bit because my 10th grader's school is 25 minutes away, and my 7th and 8th graders, who happen to be boys, still need a lot of one-on-one help. They need a lot of direction as far as keeping them on task. And so I take them with me when I'm dropping my daughter off. I book a conference room at a library in the area, and I do a lot of work with my boys, specifically for my boys during that time, as well as they do independent work, and I go over their independent work and check their work and things like that. And then you're also going to see in my schedule, I will have 2 days a week where I will be home. And those are going to be some days where I'm going to try to pick out some times to work with my 9th grader in particular, because she is completely homeschooling. And so all our subjects are homeschooled. And I'm going to need to have some time where I sit down with her, especially for her language arts. And then I need to be able to go over her corrections and make sure she's caught up on all of her activities. So that's something I need to put in my schedule. And then I also like to do family group time. That's when me and all 4 of my kids are doing some subjects together. So I'm going to show you all of that on my schedule. So I'm going to turn you around and I'm going to give you a look at my current schedule from last year. And I'm going to kind of show you what I'm moving around and explain why I'm moving things and what I'm doing as I go. So let's get started. Okay, so this is my homeschool schedule for 2024-2025. I'm gonna go ahead and make a copy. So Monday and Wednesdays are probably going to be very similar to what we did last year. However, we are adding Friday to that as well. My daughter, who is at the hybrid school, she will have some enrichment classes at the hybrid school. It'll start a bit later, and so I'm gonna have to figure out what to do on Fridays. But for now, I'm going to make another column here, And I'm going to copy Wednesday and stick it in this column here and call it Friday. Now I'm going to keep this Friday on the side just as a reference. So I know that we are starting an hour later. So I don't think we'll be able to do anything of school before we actually go. So we're going to be really losing some school time. But I guess that'll be nice to start school a little bit later on a Friday. So I'm going to add some cells here. We won't leave at 9, but it'll be close to 9. Okay, so I know that it's going to look something like that. Okay, I'm going to start with Monday here. So we drive to school. And while we are driving to school, my plan this year is to first listen to probably our history or memory. We're going to have poetry memory in there as well. I bought IEW's poetry memorization course, and so I'm trying to integrate that into our drive to school. And we do have 3 times a week, so we'll be able to practice that 3 times a week. So that is going to happen, and then we will listen to our audiobook. And so I usually have several audiobooks going on at the same time. I'll have an audiobook that I'm doing with my 2 boys and my oldest daughter. And that book I'll often assign to my 9th grader who isn't joining us for this car ride. So if I think it's a really good book, I'll have her read it on her own. And then I'll have an audiobook that I'm doing with all 4 of my kids. And then I'll have an audiobook that I'm doing with my 2 boys. I'll tell you when those different audiobooks come into play. Not audiobook, like a read aloud, but these in the car are obviously audiobooks because I'm not reading while I'm driving. We would leave at about 7:55. We would drop her off at 8:30. And then I would have my boys start on their math. They have review sheets. We do CTC math. And on those days, they would be doing review sheets. Or it's independent work. So I'm not sure what days I'm going to be doing the review sheets this year. I might change that to Thursdays. So the library opens at 9, and then they often are just kind of finishing off whatever they're doing. So we often don't start anything group-wise until 9:30. This is actually pretty accurate, 9:30 or 9:45. So I'm going to keep that. This looks pretty accurate to my schedule. I try to start with Bible. I would then usually read the history. So I'm actually going to put that in here. Move history. And the history reading, we were just doing a 2-page spread of Kingfisher history. So it didn't take long at all. So I think that can just take 1 block there. And then we would move into science, and that would be about half an hour between some books that we would read. We'd watch a video, and my boys may or may not be filling in something. I'm going to take out the break here. We do take breaks, but they're more organic. I just kind of decide when we need a break. So I'm going to just make that all science to cover that. Then we would come back for World Watch News, and during World Watch News, my boys would eat a snack. And then that was when I usually went into the grammar / IEW stuff. Okay, so this year I will be doing a rotation of things with my boys. I actually added in Spanish. So I think I'm going to try to do Spanish every time we get together. So I'm going to make that block Spanish after World Watch News. And then grammar / IEW is actually going to be some kind of rotation. So I'm going to change that. I'm going to call it group work loop. And I'm feeling, as far as group work loop, I will probably be looping Guest Hollows, Beowulf Grammar, IEW's Wonder of Science, I think, writing lessons, and like a test prep book. And you'll have to come back when I'm planning my 7th and 8th graders work. There may be something else, but let's call it those 3 for now. So group work loop, I'll probably try to do 2 of those. And then it is generally lunchtime, and that is usually when we do lunch. I will also be doing the read aloud with my boys during lunch. So I'm going to put that in here. And sometimes we also watch some history videos during lunch. So I'm going to actually move this down a little bit. We go pick up my daughter Oh, no, I'm not going to move it down. Okay. Here is something different. So this past year, she was done at 1 and not 2 because whatever class she had, we were doing at home. But I'm going to assume that we're not going to be that lucky this year. So I'm going to assume that we're going to be picking her up at 2, which actually gives us a little more time at the library. So I need to think of what we could do after lunch, or if I want to move lunch a bit later. So I kind of have a blank section here. I think I'm going to put like independent studies in there, and it might be just finishing off whatever they haven't finished. And then hopefully that means we will never have to go home and do more work. So I'm going to put that there for now and just assume that that's what we're going to do. It could also be going to a park. If it's nice out, we could do that as well. If they're finished their work, we could go to a park. So I'm going to put that in there. Okay, so then at 2 o'clock, we're picking up my daughter. We aren't going to be doing history anymore. We'll be doing our audiobooks. Oh, we didn't ever do independent work during that time, so audiobooks on the way home. I could also decide that maybe that's when we do our poetry memory on the way home, just so that it's easy to start that, and then I can move the audiobook pretty easily while I'm driving. So yeah, we'll see about that. Okay, so then we get home, and I was trying to get my kids to quickly do their chores if they didn't do their chores before we left, and have a snack. And then we go down for quiet time, so that everyone goes to their room and they do something quiet. So the boys, they need to take a shower, they need to clean their room. If they have some work they need to do, they can do that. And then my older daughter, she can start working on her homework and do silent reading, things like that. So I'm going to keep that the same. And then after that, we might move into tablet time. And this part here, I'm not going to worry about. I have no idea what our afternoon schedule is going to be. So I'm going to leave that alone for now. I'm sure you don't care too much about our afternoon schedule at this point. Okay, so Mondays and Wednesdays are going to be just about the same. I don't think there's anything different. So I am going to go ahead and just copy and paste this Monday onto the Wednesday. And then I am going to go ahead and do the same thing for Friday. And then I'm going to adjust the times because we don't have nearly as much time in the library. So I'm going to do that. Okay, so let's jump to Friday and what that will look like. We will leave around 9 o'clock, probably 8:55. About then, we will do our history, we will do our audiobooks, our poetry memorization on the way. We will be able to get into the library right away. So actually, I have a few plans for Friday. I do have a different math that I want to do with my boys. So I need to decide what I want to do first as far as what we are doing when we get to the library. I think I'm going to start with Bible. So I'm going to move that up here. I'm going to delete these cells and move that up. So I think I'm going to start with Bible. Now, I think I'm either going to do history or science on Friday because I don't think I'll have time to do both. But I really do want to make sure I do Spanish as well. So I'm going to actually put these down 2 cells, and I'm going to put Spanish up there because the Spanish is a 4-day-a-week program and we only have 3 days to do it. So I'm going to do that first. After Spanish, I'm either going to do history or science. I'm going to do history / or science there. And that will be a 30-minute block. I do need to decide when I'm going to be doing World Watch News. So that is a nice break. Maybe I will put World Watch News after Spanish, but before history. Okay, I do want to try to get to my group work loop, but maybe it's just going to be one thing instead of 2. So I'm gonna go ahead and maybe I'll do history or science, and then we'll do World Watch News, and I'll move these up. Okay, so now I gotta think about when I'm picking up my daughter because she only has 3 hours of classes. So she will be done by 12:30. So I'm going to move this up here to 12:30. We're not going to eat lunch. We're just going to go home and eat lunch. So I'm going to move that up. So that's how much time I have to work with. So I want to do my group work loop, and I also want to do a math. So I picked up Simply Charlotte Mason's My Pet Store math. It's intended for 3rd through 6th grade. I think it's great review for middle school, multiplication, division, percentages and things like that. You set up a pet store and you have to buy inventory and you sell things. And so it's adding and subtracting and kind of keeping the ledger. So I'm going to put that before the group work. I'm going to put pet store math, and that will be their math that day. And I want to make that the same color as the normal math. So let me find that color. Okay, so we'll do pet store math, and then we will do group work. And let's move these things up. So group work loop, and I'm going to make that a bit shorter. We will just do one of the things that we will do in our loop. So let's move that up. And what else do I need here? So they really don't have any time to do their independent work here on Fridays yet. So I might need to add in some time for that. So maybe this next section here, so 45-minute block basically, will be independent work, and we will just get something out of the way here. Probably not park. We won't have time for a park. So independent studies or independent work there. Okay, so that looks good. And then we will pick up my daughter. We will get home around, not sure why this is taking so long. Let's see, pick her up. Okay, I think I need to move this up a bit. It doesn't take that long. So we get home. Let's delete a cell here. Delete a cell, shift it up, pick her up. We'll get home, and then we're gonna eat lunch. Okay, so instead of chores and snack, we're going to do chores and lunch. So I'm going to keep chores here. Lunch is usually about 45 minutes. And honestly, I think I really only need 30 minutes for lunch if we're doing chores here. All right, so lunch. Okay, and then after lunch, we will go into quiet time, silent reading, independent study, stuff like that. And I'm not sure if I'm going to need to give them more time for more independent work maybe on a Friday. I guess we'll just play that by ear. So hopefully I do try to front load our work. So on Fridays, I would hope we don't have as much to do. That looks good for my Friday morning. I don't think there's anything else here that I need to put in there. So I'm going to just delete this Friday. So let's talk about Tuesday and Thursday. Okay, so last year, Thursday was the day that we had our parent partnership program, which is what my 3 younger kids were a part of. Now it's just going to be my 7th and 8th grader because my 9th grader is not going to the hybrid school that my 10th grader is going to. And our parent partnership program ends at 8th grade. So my 2 boys are going to be taking at least one class at our parent partnership program. And I have no idea when that's going to be. It could be any time on Tuesday. Best case scenario is it is after lunch. That is what I prefer. And I'm going to just pretend that that is what's going to happen. Last year, our parent partnership program was on Thursday. This year, it's going to be on Tuesday. So I'm going to start with moving our Thursday to our Tuesday and vice versa. Okay, so I did that. So I have a kid who takes about an hour to warm up once school is supposed to start. So always I start with one child doing math with me at the table. The other one is in his bedroom, hopefully getting some work done, often not. Just takes him a while to get into school. So that is usually what we do when we're home on a Tuesday or Thursday. The nice thing about Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays is we have that car time where they're just listening to things or we're just working on memory work, and so we don't have that problem. But when we're home, we do have that problem. So that's normally what we do, but I also need to carve out time to work with my 9th grader because she is doing IEW's Windows to the World, which is literary analysis, and it is teacher led. I do need to meet with her once a week for that. And then I do want to go over corrections and things like that. So that's a bit tricky because I also do have that child on the computer for math, and he gets very easily frustrated. If he's getting things wrong, he's not always the most careful. And so I'm often kind of looking over his shoulder and making sure he's not making repeated mistakes, just silly mistakes. So he gets upset if he's doing stuff and he gets things wrong, and then he gets frustrated, and then we're done with math for the time being anyways. And so I need to find a time to meet with my daughter, but I don't know when that's going to be. So I'm going to first make my schedule as if I don't have to meet with my daughter, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I hope all this thinking out loud is helpful. That is juggling 4 kids. This is part of the homeschooling schedule thought process. Okay, so assuming that I don't have to help my daughter that day, we're going to start with math and independent work depending on the child. I don't think we would ever start World Watch News before 9:30, so I'm going to go ahead and move that down. So we'll start school at 8:30. I'm going to assume at least an hour of math/independent work before we move on into our group time. We start with World Watch News. We go to Bible. We're definitely not doing our geography read aloud time at this point. Normally we would be doing our morning basket at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and make that 3 spaces and put morning basket over there. And then we would normally move into our group subjects. We will have a read aloud. It's not geography read aloud this year. It's just whatever read aloud I'm choosing. Then we will have group subjects. I think group subjects is usually 45 minutes, but this is also usually about 20 minutes. So I'm gonna keep that, I guess. We'll keep it there for now. We're not doing Spanish as a group this year, so I can delete those, move those up. So, assuming that their class is after lunch, this past year it was chemistry, I'm gonna want them to do our Washington State history, so I'm gonna just pretend that this is gonna go the way I want. Washington State history. All right, that wouldn't be a 2-hour class, but we often do have things like OT or speech and stuff like that afterwards. So I might just keep that there the way it is, the length that it is, just to add in that extra time. So that means we're gonna have to eat lunch and leave for class. Let's see, we're gonna move that up. Okay, so if we need to be at class by 12:30, we will need to be doing, so this is gonna be 1 group subject, I think. We'll have time for 1. I'm gonna move this up and put it here. I might have to make my morning basket a bit shorter too, just so we have enough time. All right, so lunch, if we start at 11:30, about half an hour, and then we leave for class and when we get there. Okay, so that is about right. Delete cells, shift up. Okay, so I might have to make our morning basket a little bit shorter on that day. I don't love that, but yeah, that is sort of what it's probably going to look like. And I don't know what's gonna happen afterwards, so I'm just gonna leave it, pretend that we still have OT and speech at that point. So I'm gonna leave Tuesday. Now we have Thursday. That is going to be a longer day for our family time because we won't have any interruptions. That's gonna be my favorite day. Well, I like the days at the library too, but it's gonna be a day that I'm looking forward to because we get to do stuff as an entire group. I need to make this a bit longer, so I'm gonna insert and shift down. And this is reminding me that I did not plan my meeting with my daughter. So I don't know if I'm gonna need to put a note maybe on the side of my schedule to include that. It might have to be Tuesday afternoon after we get back from things, or it might have to be when we get back from things on Monday. She might just have to be flexible. She likes to get her work done. She doesn't like to meet with me in the afternoon, or yeah, but we might just have to do that on Monday when we get back, maybe during quiet time, which I don't love to do because I like my quiet time, but that could be a possibility as well, sticking her there. But okay, let's go to Thursday. Gonna need an hour for math and independent. So math and independent work or independent studies. Okay, we will do World Watch News, Bible, Morning Basket, our read aloud, group subjects, and we don't need Spanish. So I'm gonna take that out. Okay, and then this was a weekly meeting with my other daughter. I'm also going to assume that we don't need to do that. I will need to schedule it somewhere, but it might be able to be there. That might be the best time for it, honestly. Okay, so that gives me morning basket, read aloud, group subjects. It gives me enough time. And then lunch, we like to eat around 12:30, so I will move that up. So I'm gonna give myself an extra block for group subjects, and then I'm going to move this up, and I will put my meeting with my other daughter here. If it needs to go a little further into lunch, that's fine. And then last year we had all these things happening after lunch, but I don't know what's gonna be happening. So I'm just not gonna plan anything after lunch. We may have things that we need to do, or it may just be normal free time and stuff like that. So just catching up on other work. And yeah, so this is also time for my boys to work on their independent work. So I think that that is a pretty good start at our schedule. I'm gonna put a little asterisk here for myself. I'm gonna put meeting with a win. Okay, so I wanna add that in at some point. And I think maybe Monday afternoon might be the best time. So that is my preliminary schedule for the upcoming school year. I hope that helps just to see how I use my old schedule and sort of my thought process on how I come up with my new schedule. I will print this off. I will post it for myself, and I'll have one in my bin that I take to the library, and I will be making changes. It's, you know, not a big deal for me to print this off. I will make changes in the first few years. Then we usually get into a pretty solid rhythm and schedule, and I don't have to look at it anymore. But I just like to have this, and the kids like to have it for the first few weeks of school while we're figuring things out. So thanks so much for coming today. If you want to see my planning videos for like my family loop subjects, and then my 7th and 8th graders and my 9th and 10th graders, and sort of how I organize all of that, do stick around. Thanks for coming today, and I hope to see you all in a future video. Bye everyone.